So Maxine, tell me, when did you decide to become a woman?
Okay, that's a good question because you don't actually decide to become a different gender. I was always a woman, but the moment that I realized that I was in the wrong body, I was 13 or 14 years old. I mean, I always knew something was up, but I was a very happy child, so I never really thought anything of it. And when I got bullied as a child, I got bullied a lot. And people used to, scream at me like, oh, you're gay, or like, you're this and that. And so I thought I was gay, which is like the natural thing, I guess, to go to. A lot of people have that. But then when I went further into, like, did research and, saw doctors and all of that, I actually realized that I was transgender because I didn't know what it meant before. But yeah, you don't choose to become a different gender. You're always that gender. It's just that moment where you realize that you're stuck in the wrong body. I was 13 or 14.
But you were born male.
My sex,
Your birth certificate.
my birth certificate said male. So like my sex was male, but my gender was female. So they're two very different things. So gender is something, gender is a social construct. So it's something that we're taught from a young age, how to be a certain gender. And it's something that's in your mind. And the sex is obviously the reproductive system that you're born with. So yes, in that aspect, I was born male, but my gender was always female.
But at birth, a doctor said you were male.
Yeah.
When you were old enough to form your own opinions, you argued against that, or do you just accept that you are male, you were male, and you're different? How do you see yourself when you realised that you were a female trapped in a male body? When did you first realise?
I mean, I was never male, ever.
Well, you were.
I wasn't. It was yes, my sex, I was male. I had the male parts. But I never developed really as a male. And I think it was kind of obvious for everyone around me as well that I never really developed into a male body. I was always female, and I didn't have to argue to that with anyone really, because my doctors fully agreed. And the only reason why you need that male-female label is for medical treatments. And they said, and they did at birth assign me with, you are male, but that's because when I was born, nowadays it's a lot different. When I was born, there were only, two genders. There was male and there was female. So there wasn't really anything else that they could assign me with, unless you're intersex, which means you were born with both parts.
Yeah.
But that
which you weren't.
No, which I wasn't.
No.
And then they kind of decide for you, but for me, essentially they also decided for me, as they do with everyone else. It's just male or female.
So as a kid, help me understand this. As a child, were you happier in a group of boys or with a group of girls? Did you play with dollies? Did you play with trains, cars? How and when did you first realise that you were different?
So I was always more comfortable around girls, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. But my parents were always very open-minded, and they let us play with anything that we wanted. I have 3 older brothers. They played with dolls. They dressed up as a girl. They dressed up as a guy. They, like, dressed up as Cinderella. Like, it was never an issue in our household. I don't think there's any correlation between what you play with as a child. I think that's such a social construct, and that's such a wrong opinion that people have. It's often, it's because we're taught from a young age to be really insecure. We're taught that it's only okay if you're a boy, you have to play football. If you're a girl, you go to ballet.
Yes, yeah.
Basically, as women, we grow up to be sexualized by men, like a sexual object. So,
well, that's not necessarily true for all men, is it?
No, but it's...
You're generalising now.
But it is the way that we are taught as a child. That is, gender is a social construct. And if it wasn't a social construct, I think we'd be looking at this a lot different today. And transgender wouldn't be a weird thing.
Can I ask you, do you wish that you'd been born a girl? to
No.
become a woman?
No.
If you could change the course of your life, would you have preferred to have been a baby girl and grow up to be a woman?
Obviously, there's a part of me that would have loved that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, being trans is what made me the person I am today. I didn't have a normal upbringing because I was trans. I am trans. So I had to grow up a lot quicker than, any of my other friends. And I've had to realize stuff a lot earlier on in my life.
I appreciate the struggles that you must have gone through, yes.
I went through my struggle with identity when I was 12, and most people go through it when they're 40 or 50.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, I really appreciate actually going through this. And no, I wouldn't change it. Of course, some part of me wouldn't want to be trans because being trans is not a fun thing.
No.
It's actually a very horrible thing, and you go through a lot of...
But it has got you today where you are, a top model.
I wouldn't be...
Aren't you?
I guess so.
And a beautiful lady.
Thank you.
And it's got you where you are today. So you've been blessed, you've been lucky to have been transgender.
I wouldn't say I'm lucky to be transgender. I don't think anyone's lucky to be transgender. I always compare it to when someone has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
If you...
That's a strange one.
No, I actually don't think so. Because
explain to me then why.
Because it's something you live with forever. There's no way to cure it, but there's a way of treatment.
Okay.
If you don't go through that treatment, the results for most trans people is unfortunately death. A lot of people commit suicide because they're not accepted because of society or because they're not able to get medical help. And it's something that you live with forever. It's not something that you cure. But it's not like I woke up one day and said, oh, I want to get surgery. I want to transition into a girl. Mm. It's because I had to. It wasn't really a choice. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be here today.
Thank you for that. I must say that's quite thought-provoking. Yeah. So let me come on to your childhood. And we touched on this suicide, which I didn't appreciate that so many transgender guys and girls thought of that.
It's more than 50% of transgender people have tried to commit suicide.
That's incredible. Did you ever consider suicide?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I attempted it.
What did you do?
When I was 17, I've never talked about this. When I was 17, because I realized at quite an old age, because when you're 13, you're already going through puberty. Mm-hmm. So basically they will only put you on puberty blockers before you enter puberty, which means it stops you from developing essentially as a male or a female. Mm-hmm. And it just slows down the hormone process. But because I was already in my puberty, it didn't make a lot of sense. So I had to wait until I was out of puberty to start with female hormones.
Okay.
And when I started those, and then they told me, oh, your surgery is going to be another 2 years, and it's just going to take a long time. And I was just not feeling it. I got really depressed. I didn't have anyone to talk to because the psychiatrists and the psychologists that I could talk to, I had to lie to because they were the ones who decided whether or not I was going to get my treatment. And if they realized that you were in a bad mental health space,
wow,
they wouldn't give you that treatment.
So if you had gone and spoken to the psychiatrist in a depressed state, you would have been refused?
Not refused, but they would have postponed it a long time. And the younger you get the surgery, the better.
That makes the whole thing a lie again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've got to be up and, yes, to get what you want, which you're entitled to.
Exactly. So then I eventually, I told one of my friends because I just had to tell someone.
Yeah.
That friend told all of my friends.
Oh, no.
Then that led just to a spiral of just a few horrible months. Mm. And me attempting to take my own life. I dropped out of school after that because my school claimed that I was emotionally terrorizing other people, which no 17-year-old should be labeled with.
So you're the victim.
Yeah. Didn't want to live anymore, didn't see any purpose of my life whatsoever, until one day I got a phone call from my surgeon saying someone's surgery was cancelled and I could come in for it.
How did you feel? Knowing that within a few hours it was going to be...
I thought my whole life was going to change, and it didn't.
It didn't?
No.
Tell me why.
Well, people put too much pressure on this surgery. As a transgender kid, you're always fighting. You're always fighting for something.
Right.
Because you want to get to that stage of where you are yourself.
Uh-huh.
And then once you have the surgery and you have the hormone treatment and you get that done, you actually feel shit. You know, the hard part is just starting.
Why do you feel shit?
Essentially, you're starting over again. I mean, I wasn't a different person.
No.
I was still Maxim, the
Yes.
same person,
Yes.
same friends, same family.
I understand.
Nothing else. No one died.
No.
But it took me a while, I think almost a year before I was really comfortable in my own body, accept myself more and more, and yeah, just figure out how to live my life now.
Your surgery, how long were you under the knife?
10 hours.
10 hours.
Yeah.
And they removed your male genitalia?
They don't remove them.
Right.
So basically what they do is first they remove the testicles, then they take it and they cut it in half, the penis, and then they flip it inside out, because basically the female reproductive system or the male reproductive system is the same as a female, but it's just flipped inside out.
Right, okay. That's an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. But you're never going to be able to have children?
No.
You don't have a womb and you don't have...
No, I don't have ovaries or
Right.
not a womb or no.
Okay. And did that take very long for that to become a functioning vagina?
It took 2 months to heal, and then after
Right.
that it was, yeah.
Was the procedure explained in detail to you before you...
I watched the whole video of someone doing it before I went into it.
No way. And you still did it?
Yeah.
You're a brave lady.
Well, there wasn't really a choice.
Good heavens.
If I didn't get that done,
Oh, I couldn't have...
I wouldn't be here today. So it wasn't really like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this today.
I don't think I could have watched that video, Maxim. Oh dear. Anyway.
I'm quite good with surgery stuff, but I get that other people wouldn't really want to watch that.
It's a tricky question for me to ask. I don't have a son any longer.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to imagine what your father felt when he had a boy, he had a son, and now he's got a daughter.
Well, he has 3 others, so there's
Three other boys or girls?
Yeah, all boys.
Has he ever explained his
No.
innermost feelings to you?
But my dad's not the most, well, when we were younger, he wasn't the most involved person, because he was very busy with work, always. So he was away a lot. So I was mainly raised by my mom.
Okay.
My parents were always okay with it, but people always try to blame someone for something.
Yeah.
Always. They always try to place the blame, and I think my dad at first kind of placed the blame with my mom, because I'm super close with my mom, and it was like, oh, because she had 4 boys, she always wanted a daughter. And then
I see, right.
that was me, but you don't make someone transgender. You were born
No.
with that. It's like you don't make someone gay, you don't make someone black, you don't make someone white. Like, it's just how you are born.
Has his attitude changed? For
Yeah,
the better?
a lot.
For the better?
For the better, yeah,
And
a lot.
that's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
He was always like, do whatever makes you happy. He said that to all 4 of us, always. But it did take a while for him to understand. But they're both super supportive of me with everything that I do. But I have to be doing something.
Where are you going to be in 10 years' time?
I would see 10 years, I would say I would have my first child. I really want to be a mom. Everyone always says have a successful career, but for me to have a successful career, that means for me to be happy with what I'm doing, not necessarily having 2 million followers and being really famous and having a lot of money. It just means me being comfortable with myself and me being happy with what I'm doing. So I would just say, yeah, be at peace with myself. I mean, I'd like to do a lot more for my community, raise a lot of money, raise a lot of awareness, really try to change the educational system, because that's what the core of our issues are, is that from a young age we're being taught the wrong things.
Yeah.
And once that changes, I feel like, yeah, a lot can change.
So you think the system's wrong?
Yeah, so wrong.
Or the system is ignorant?
Both. It's both wrong and ignorant. Like, a lot of people say, oh, you know, like, you can't blame this person because, you know, they're a bit older or they're a bit more conservative. But I have to say, my mom's mom, so my grandma, she was like super reserved. But when my mom told her about me,
yeah,
she was like, yeah, that's my grandchild. And that shouldn't be anything else. I always say it's one thing to not accept someone, but it's another thing to bully someone or harass someone. And my family has never given me any of that.
You're also, I rather fancy you're living in wonderful times now, because going back to my childhood, I do remember a chap, Chris, who was a very dear friend of mine, and it still upsets me, who was gay. But I didn't know until after he hung himself that he was gay. It's something that it's stayed with me. If only somebody had realised, and somebody had got hold and said, tell me about it. He could have shared it, like you were able to do. But in those days, it was a taboo subject.
Yeah,
it's much more open and accepted in the world, and thank God it is nowadays.
And, you know, I think it's super important that our community, the LGBTQ plus community, is very easy to start blaming people and start campaigning for the rights of us without knowing the actual history.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we acknowledge the history of people who have come before us to fight for our rights.
Yes.
But like you said, I'm lucky to live in these times. Actually, today is like where we're at the turning point. Still today, I'm putting myself in a danger by exposing myself. I am still illegal in 75 countries around the world. In 8 of those countries,
I appreciate,
I would be beaten to death.
Horrendous.
I would be stoned to death.
That is horrendous.
Because I am myself. So, still not lucky to live in a world like this, but I think if no one's going to do it, I want to do it.
Are you a role model?
I think I have, I became a role model, yeah.
You have the potential.
Definitely.
Will you change the world?
Hell yeah. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to conquer the world. I'm going to change the world. I'm ready. Yeah.
That's good.
I 100% believe in that.
Well, bless you.
I believe you can do anything you set your mind to. And that's what I want to do.
You got to do it.
I'm going to do it.